Hey, here's Anki. Today we are going to have a look on the new feature from Snappify, which called slides. So as you can see here, I prepared, or we picked actually a slide from Alex Sidorenko, a pretty cool animation that he created about how to avoid prop drilling in React.js. So as you can see, everything is done on only 9 slides. So it's actually perfect to showcase you how the slides in Snappify is working. I would say let's have a look on what we are going to create today. So as you can see, I prepared here those presentations, those slides, and if I click on presentation, you can see you can actually present it like that on stage, for example. So have a look. So pretty cool. Code changes. So, and this animation is what we are today going to explore and how we can create it. So in order to do that, let's start from the dashboard, clicking on Add Snap. So here we're just gonna start with a blank presentation. You can of course give it a name. We're gonna skip this, and as first we want to select the medium size presentation as our background. We're also gonna change the color. Let's pick one color from preset, this one. So with that, we have actually our background. So, and as next, we want to add a code editor. So also paste the code here, and we're gonna move it on this side, and our snapping guideline gonna help you to center the code editor vertically, which is pretty nice. So, and as next, we want to actually design the visual elements on the right side. So for that, we're gonna add a text and app. We're gonna clear the background and select a white color. No, I want white color. Okay, this transparency like that. So as next, we want to add a rectangle. So our rectangle actually is, you can draw it freely as you want, but if you, for example, press Shift, you can create a square. So like that. We actually want, you can click, for example, this button in order to say it should keep the aspect ratio. And if I increase it, as you can saw, you can also change it with mouse wheel, which is pretty convenient if you just want to adjust some pixels. We're gonna move it a bit up like that. So perfect. We're gonna increase the border to 5 pixels, and also again gonna select, make it white. So. As you already saw on the right side, we have some repeating elements. So this is actually pretty perfect use case for our grouping functionality. So you can select those two elements, so the rich text editor and the rectangle. And on the left side, you see our element tree, and on the element tree, you see also those elements are selected. If you open the context menu via right click, you can select group selection. So that means, and we're also gonna give it the name. We're gonna give it a name, so we can also have a better overview on the element tree. And if elements are grouped together, then it actually behaves like a single element on the canvas, which makes it pretty convenient to drag it around and move it and apply some styles on it. Also one perfect pretty nice feature is also you can duplicate a whole group, which is in our case very, very handy. So gonna place it underneath, and also gonna duplicate it. There is also another way, like we have also pretty we have quite a lot collection of shortcuts that you can find it here in the shortcut menu. So we also have a shortcut for of course, for also duplicating element on the canvas, which is Command D. So with that, you can also duplicate an element quickly. So that's actually our element tree, and we of course want to rename the groups, so like that. The first question actually is, okay, if a grouped element is behaving like a single element, how can it edit the text content, for example? And there are actually two common methods for that, which also works exact the same way, for example, on Figma or maybe other tools that you are using already for design, for your design visuals. The first one is just to double click on the element, on the group. Then you can actually select the element underneath the group, so the children element, so to say. So then now we are able to select those elements, and just again double click on the text in order to edit the text content. Then center it. The other way is to select the text area that we want to actually edit, and just press enter, and then we are also in the edit mode. We can paste the content, and that's it actually. So as next, what we also want to do is add some arrow elements. So like that, we want also some curves in it, like that. Can also change the curve, and now we need that actually again. So duplicate it, attach it here, attach it here. So then one other cool thing is that now the arrow elements are attached, which means you can move the components and the arrow gonna stick to the attached element, which is also pretty nice. And now we actually have our structure for our visual element. What I would recommend is, again, select all of those elements and group them together. So since and we're gonna call it visual model, like that. And since we don't want to accidentally select them on the canvas, we're also gonna lock it. And also, what you can do is to collapse it, so we have a really clean element tree on the left side, and now the visual elements are locked. You cannot select those elements, which is pretty good, because now we can play around with the circles that we want to animate without touching the structure in the background. So as next, what we want to do is preparing our code editor. So as first step, we want to go to the animation tab and want to change the code change transitions. So default is fade in applied, which means if there is some code change in the editor, we're just gonna fade in the changes. In this example, we're gonna select the slide in option. So that means actually just the code lines which was edited or changed, just gonna slide from right side to left side, just some slide in animation. And the next thing is we want also add a box constraint to the element. So we want that the code editor is always centered vertically. So what that actually means is, if the code content increases like that, it always gonna stay in the middle, which is pretty cool. So since the code gonna change during the slides, we want that the code editor is in the middle and we don't have to care about it. So as next, what we want to do is actually this is our first slide, which is done, and we want to move to the second slide. So, and for that purpose, what we can do is we can add a new slide, or in this case, we're just gonna duplicate it, since the changes are there are not that much changes. We're gonna almost reuse every element. So now we duplicated the first slide, and we are now on the second slide. We're gonna add a new code line in the second line, like that. So data use data. So now what we actually can already see is the code change transition. Let's have a look. Click on present, and now we are on in present mode. So this is the first slide, and if I switch to the second slide, you're gonna see the line transition, like that. So if I go back, yeah, and that's the animation that we actually just added with that. We have to code it on the first slide, and on the second slide we just adding a new line, and this is getting animated automatically, which is pretty cool. So we're gonna discover the mechanism, the behind the scene bit later, how it actually works. So let's move on the circle animation. For that, of course, we need a new circle. So this is again an ellipse element, and if you press Shift, you can actually create perfect circles. So here we again gonna apply the aspect ratio. So we're gonna keep the aspect ratio, and we actually want 48. Yeah, perfect. And we're gonna center it. We actually don't want border. Instead, we want a color. Let's pick gradient, and again from our preset. Perfect. So that's our first circle, and in the next slide we want actually again one circle is moving to the next one. So for that we're gonna duplicate this circle and place it again on top of the other circle. So as you can see on elementary, we have two circles which are placed just on top of each other. So on this and that's actually, so that's the slide number 2. So for the slide number 3, we just moving the circle, the first circle to the component A. And again, let's have a look on the presentation, how it looks right now. So I'm gonna switch to the slide number 2. We see the code change transition, and also our circle is appearing on the right side. So, and from here, if I go to the third slide, you're gonna see it moves with of course with an animation to the component A. So now it's actually time to discover, to understand how Snappify is able to create those animations in the background. It's actually pretty simple in the background. We have for each element per slide that you see here, for example, a unique animation ID. With those unique animation ID, we can create the transition if you, for example, copy and paste an element from one slide to the next slide or previous slide. So in that case, the animation ID persists, and Snappify is able to link those elements together. And if you switch from one slide to the next slide, and there are some elements which have the same animation ID, we can detect the changes which was made to this element, and actually can run the animation. And that's actually it. So it is actually pretty simple. Of course, for code editor, we are doing a bit more, because we also have to detect the code changes, which means we also look in the code editor element and see trying to figure out the code changes, but the animations are done with this animation ID and just detecting, linking those elements from one slide to next slide and trying to run the animation. That's actually it. So with that knowledge, we can also create pretty advanced animations. For example, let's do it for our circle. So our circle, as you saw maybe already, it has quite a boring animation. It just moves down to the component A. So what we can also do is we can, for example, we select the first ellipse which moves to the component A. So what we can do is we can make it smaller. So let's say 26 pixel. So and move it to the center. And we also can reduce the opacity, so it's actually transparent. So and now what Snappify gonna do behind the scene is, okay, we're gonna Snappify gonna see the transparent smaller circle which moves to which is on the third slide here with opacity 100%, of course. So it's just gonna make a fade in animation plus a scale animation, actually size resize animation, and also the movement animation. So those three animations are combined. So let's have a look on how it looks right now. So now we are on the first slide, second slide, and now you're gonna see the third slide. So if I go back and forward, so it is actually pretty smooth animation. So much better than the first one, right? So that's actually it. Let's do the code changes. Here, and then now we're gonna create the slide number 4. In the slide number 4, there is also going to be a new circle there which moves to the component B. So what we just going to do is go to the slide number 2 and select the transparent smaller element circle and just press Command C for copy. And here we're just gonna paste it, Command V, and place it here. And duplicate the third slide. On the fourth slide, we're just gonna move it here, make it bigger again, so 48, center it of course, and increase the opacity. And now we're gonna also paste the code. So now I guess it's pretty clear what is going on here. And on the fifth slide, we actually want to add some other elements. So we're gonna add here a circle. Let's do that. But since we don't want to move those circles, we're also gonna group them together. So group selections, you can then call it ellipses, right? So and we're gonna lock them. So as next we want some circle, yeah, like that. In this case we don't want a color, instead we actually want some border like that, for example. So that's fine. Now we actually need some rich text element. So let's add a rich text element. So and it should have some arrow which is attached to the circle and to the text element. Maybe in this case it's better to hide the elements so that we can focus on just those two elements, like that. So now we can make them visible again. So now it looks like that. Maybe move it a bit. Yeah, like that. That looks fun. So that's actually number 5. On the number 6, we actually want on the 6th slide, we actually want to recover the content of the slide 2. So in this case, it makes sense to duplicate the slide number 3. So if we, for example, open the context menu and hover on duplicate and press command keyboard, then you're gonna see duplicate to end, and you can just click on it while pressing command keyboard, and it's gonna add it to the last slide. It's gonna duplicate it as last slide. So we have the content of the second slide, and don't forget the transparent ellipses that we added previously. So we actually don't want it because the animation ID persisted. So which means, as you can remember, this transparent circle is actually this one. So if it is on the 6th slide and it's transparent, it's gonna move it up. So that's actually something that we don't want. So therefore we're gonna delete it. Let's create the slide number 7, just duplicating the 6th slide. Here we're gonna add the code changes, and this code change gonna increase the code editor. And as you can see, it stays vertically centered because we added the box constraint. So, and here what we want to do is actually we want add one more arrow. So just duplicate it. We're gonna unlock it like that, and this should point to component B. Like that. So just a little bit of adjustment. So, and also we're gonna add a rich text. Let's duplicate this rich text, unlock it, and then what you can do is this one. So let's tap children. So perfect. And now what we want to do in the 8th slide is that we move again and circle from component A to component from component app to component B. So for that case, we again can duplicate, also copy the transparent circle here and paste it here again. So and in the now we're gonna duplicate the slide number 7. Make the code changes here, so which is actually just this line, and here we also gonna just move it here, make it again bigger, center it, and make it visible. So now if you have a look on the presentation, we're gonna see the code changes with its visual model. So that's the app. Now it's passed to component A. User data is passed to, now it's passed to component B. So we actually don't want this prop is passed to component A. What we can do is we can now we have again the old state, and we can make it. We can actually utilize the children. So component B is passed as children to component A, which is also here designed with these visuals, and the circle can actually pass to now component A directly, which is happening here. So we have here the user data, which is passed to component B, and the circle is moving to the component B. So that's perfect. And as last slide, what we want to do is just add a big text element. But what we want to achieve is that in the last slide, the whole element is sliding out to the left side. So for that, we're gonna duplicate it, and then make sure that all the elements are unlocked, so you can select them all together, and you can zoom outside and then move all the elements outside of the canvas. So this gonna make the animation which move everything to the left side, so slide out animation basically. And now we're gonna create the text element. This, we're gonna center it. You can of course use the alignment buttons to center it. Perfect. And that's actually it. So let's have a look. So the first slide, then moving to component A, component B. We don't need this prop. Moving to the old state. So the new structure, and then passing the prop to component B. And now the slide like that. So pretty cool, right? So this is actually it. Thank you for watching this tutorial. We also have a written form of this tutorial on our page. Just go ahead to snappify.com. Then there is the upper section, the tutorial, and in the tutorial section you're going to find exact the same animation that we did right now, just in written form. If you need some more explanation and just need some visuals and really step-by-step instructions, you're gonna find it there. So thanks for watching and stay tuned. As I said, this feature is developing in the development process right now, but you can also already join the beta and try it out, and let's have fun. So thank you.